lessons learned are always important, because if it's something that is not being learned, then it's of no value. So it's important to have those lessons learned. Not that you want a whole lot of lessons and you got to run, look, I've been here before, but you do get stronger from the lessons that are learned. They survive and you'll survive too. So that's why it's important to have a strong ecosystem of sisterly love, or whatever you want to call it, because I believe in the visionary men. We have visionary men as well. But you have that support system to say, okay, here's my shoulder. Now, okay, how are we going to work through this? What do we need to do next?
Good morning, Betty. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm awesome. Now that I'm speaking to you, I absolutely adore you. Prior to hitting record, you and I were chit-chatting a little bit. I've had so many people in so many different circles tell me you have to reach out to Betty. And I know you and I have been playing some phone tag, so I'm so super excited to hear your journey and chat with you about a few things. For our community who does not or may not know who you are, do you mind just to sort of tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. I'm considered a business connector, super connector. And I do that for reasons that women should do more. And that's connecting people together to help them fulfill their journey. So that's my background. And I do come out of corporate America. As a C-suite executive, I was an entrepreneur in business with my husband, became a consultant, and now I do what I do now, and that's help women scale. So I have the experiences from all of them to really amplify individuals based off that experience.
I love that. And, I always look at women like yourself, and I think we have similar missions and visions and the reasons behind what you do. So coming from corporate America, being where you are now, there's usually a journey. And I always say there's never a paved highway to success, whatever success looks like to you. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey and why you are where you are?
Sure. I feel that any woman who's been a corporate C-suite executive, typically, if they're a C-suite executive, they're really running like a mini P&L. It's their own small business. They might be reporting to somebody else. And also typically they're working long, hard hours. And that's when it was a snap for me when I decided, and my husband, he wasn't my husband at the time. It's like, we're putting in all these long hours. We've helped companies grow. We've helped companies sustain. We've done turnaround corporations. Why not us? Why not do our own? And that's when we started our journey of working the long hours as a C-suite executive to like 7, 8 o'clock at night, grabbing a quick bite, and then reconvening and putting our business model together. So we did that. We went out on Wall Street, and I call it begging for dollars. And we ended up getting our first infusion of capital of about $10 million, which was a lot back in 1999 to start our business. So from there, we did it, but it was bad timing because we were in the property casualty industry. We had 9/11, and then there were some changes with, the Enron situation. So we spun off our business, and then someone reached out to me. I will digress a little bit because in corporate America for women, in order for you to get promoted to the next level, you had to be what they call mobile. And what does that mean? They tested you, particularly if you were a woman with children. They moved you here, you moved you there. And so with temporary duty assignments, I probably had in total between temporary duty and full moves about a dozen. And it was only then that I decided with the last move, I had to look in the mirror and say, you got to stop being selfish. Had I taken the next move, my son would have been in 3 different high schools. So that is why I made the decision, as many women do, no, I'm going to stay put, and decided to start our own corporation. So we did that. Small business, boutique operation, property and casualty. And from there, we spun off our business because of 9/11, and nobody in the property and casualty field wanted to be there at that time with the 9/11. Right. And we decided to, someone reached out to me with all those moves. They wanted me to start a chapters, which they called them, in Maryland. And so I did. And that's multi-million-dollar women.
Wow. Wow. I started taking notes and I'm like, you know what, forget it. Because you said so many important things. But I think the thing I really want to go back to which I know so many amazing, uber successful women, whether they're celebrities or, founders or whatever they are, and they're reinventing themselves. And you said something so important. You're like, I've been doing all of this time, all of this energy and investing me. And why wouldn't I invest it on myself? And I think that was sort of so important and key in your journey. Was it a realization of your time, I guess, management not being well spent, and you're seeing all these women being moved around? And I find it so interesting that you say women with children. I have 4. And I knew out of the gate that my life would never be conducive to something like that. It wouldn't. It's too disruptive. But anyways, it's so interesting that you had that question and you were able to step back and say, why not me? And yes, so what was the answer to yourself? Obviously.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Why not? And why not give it? It's best to have tried and failed than not tried at all. So, and if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have a lot of starts and stops. So I wanted to. And if you're in that corporate world as executive, in the back of the mind, there's always something gnawing at you. Like, I'm doing this here. I should be able to do it on their own, because you can really dictate your own hours. So as an entrepreneur, as you know, you're still working very, very long hours. So there was no doubt in my mind. Once I had made that decision, it was, let's go, let's do it.
Right. But it was that realization for you. Like you said, your son would have been at 3 different high schools. It was to choose you and your family first.
Yes. Self-care.
And I love that. I just did a podcast yesterday with Dr. Jen Welter, first female football coach in the NFL and whatnot.
Yes.
She says,
yes, I've met her. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she says, talking about selfish, like, what do you mean selfish? Like, yes, I want to spend time on me. And it is so important, because when women think about whether it's self-care, self-awareness, self-help, whatever it is, you almost feel guilty, if you will. As women, we feel guilty. And it's until you grow and you have that experience and life experience that, without me looking after me, I cannot give you 100% of me. And would you say that was sort of the story for you? Were you feeling the burnout? Were you feeling agitated that you were putting in these hours and all this time and energy into something that wasn't yours? Like, I'm still trying to figure out what the breaking point, if you will, was for you to break away from there.
I think you can call it maybe a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you want to be successful even in corporate America. So why not fulfill that within yourself? So there was no hesitation, because it was gnawing in the back of my mind that I want to do this. And so I took that leap of faith, and I'm glad I took that leap. And in doing so, I was able to really do things that I knew that I needed to do, that I've been doing in corporation to be successful and to continue my success. Was there some slips and falls? Yes. In corporate America, there wasn't a lot of tossing and turning, like how I'm going to make payroll, like you have when you're an entrepreneur. But it's so self-fulfilling to know that, particularly, it's not just being on your own and having a business, but what am I doing that has a purpose and that's impactful and significant? So what we did was impactful and significant, because we had a boutique operation. And what I'm doing now is impactful and significant.
1,000%. Were you scared making the move?
I won't say there was fear. It was anxiety, because I was ready to go. And just with just my corporate experience, did not know what I did not know. So there wasn't fear. So, like the Joe Harry when you don't know what you don't know. So we just went out of the gate, and there was some anxiety. What about this? What about that? Because there's things that we did not know, and there were missteps. And unfortunately, there weren't a lot of organizations that I was aware of at the time that provided that support system.
Right.
Podcasts weren't out there. Where you could get on or you could listen to hear about others' experiences. So we were operating without those tools. Nowadays, today, in the 2024, there are so many tools that women have access to, like your program, where they can listen to other individuals, other women, other men, and they can say, oh my gosh, and they can glean from their experiences.
Yes. And you know what? I love that you said that. Even growing up myself, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 10. So I'd like to think I'm 29 and a half, but several decades ago, there was really Oprah was my hero and was my mentor, because there wasn't a lot of women that you could look up to and see that they created something out of nothing, but you knew that the passion was there and you knew you wanted to do for good. And so again, that's why I Am Unbreakable was born, was the necessity that, and it's astonishing, I'll say to you, and I want to get your take on this, that women still feel very alone. Women still feel like they don't have a place they belong. Yeah. Women still are hesitant to, and I never want to use the word networking, but they're still feeling hesitant to collaborate, to connect. And it is so important to make those connections. And that's why with I Am Unbreakable, that regardless of, what age, stage, gender, I don't care about any of that stuff. My thing is about connecting incredible humans. I don't know. I think I had mentioned this to you before. I was the first female private investigator in North America. And I remember for years feeling so alone, ostracized by the men in the industry. And that's fine. But I never wanted women to feel as alone as I did and as an entrepreneur. And so coming full circle a couple of decades later, it's shocking to me that women, like you said, we have all these resources. We have amazing women like yourself that embody other women and give them these resources that, you couldn't even pay for. So why are women still feeling so alone and feeling like they don't belong? Why do you think that is?
One of the organizations that I work with, and I'm a facilitator for, a chapter chair, we have a saying that it's lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be lonely at the top. And you just mentioned two of the pillars that I use. I have 5 pillars of success. You mentioned collaborate and connect. Those are 2 of my 5 pillars. And if women would learn how to hone those skills, at least my 5 pillars, they will be successful. They will scale their businesses. Because if you take a look at successful women entrepreneurs, successful executives, and I'll just take the 2 pillars that you mentioned, they are extremely successful in knowing how to collaborate with each other and connect. And my connect means making those strategic introductions, just like people did to you and say, hey, look, you have to know Betty. Women need to understand there's enough out there for all of us. Just think if we would coalesce as a group, how much further we would be along. And so those 2 are 2 of my 5 pillars. And you obviously have mastered it in terms of collaboration and connecting.
Well, thank you for that. I continue to be what my kids like to refer to as a whip, which is a work in progress. I feel that even though I am an 8-time founder, I still learn from everybody and every guest every single day. And I feel like if you go into it, and into it meaning the connection and the collaboration of what can I do for you? Don't knock on doors saying, what can you do for me? It's making the connection. It's making the friendships. It's almost like dating, if you will. I mean, you don't just call somebody and say, hey, do you want to get married? It's more like, hey, I love what you're doing. And just even the way you and I connected. And it was a while, and I always say too, that rejection could be redirection, and rejection could mean no, not now. No, not today. No, let's connect later, whatever the case is. And that's okay. Like, don't be fearful of what the outcome is going to be. Be curious. May I ask you, and maybe this is, secret, so I don't want to overstep, but what are your other 3 pillars?
Sure. No. I love sharing those. Thank you for asking. The other 2 are communicate, and that's branding. Yes. We need to have a personal and a business brand. Women, and you You're branding. That everybody, when they hear that term, they relate that to you. So it's the communicate pillar. How do we brand? And the other one is to connect. As I said, connect. I'm sorry. Cultivate. Reaching back and developing others. We work with nonprofits, women organizations that are like ourselves, with students. We have to learn how to cultivate and give back. If you take a look at the successful entrepreneurs and executives, they're always sitting on some sort of nonprofit board. They're doing something for others. They're giving back. And that is really rewarding. And the last one is called courage. And it's not courage just to be big and strong, but it's the courage to take care of your health, both your personal health and your mental health, and as well as your wealth. And that's your personal and your business wealth. COVID taught us a lot. And I'm sure Unbreakable was really heightened at that time, because you saw women who were entrepreneurs, might be CEOs of their businesses or might be in an executive, and they were still having a partner or not. They still found themselves coming home, having to clean, where prior to COVID, they might have somebody coming in. They might have to do the grocery shopping. And they would also finding out, oh my gosh, I now have to be a teacher too, because the schools are shut down. And that took a mental toll on women. And it's okay for women. And I'm not just saying this for women. It's okay to not be okay. That took a big, huge toll on women mentally. So if we're not okay, nobody's going to be okay. Like they say, if mama's not happy, nobody's going to be happy.
Exactly. May I ask how many kids you have?
We're a blended family. So we have a total of 4. One passed 5 years ago, but we've been married 27 years and we've known each other since 76. So there's always going to be happiness in our life. There's always joy. And they're adults. I have adults.
Yeah. You know what? I have kids between, up to 26 as well. So I, agree. Do you have boys, girls? And I want to say
we have one son and we had three
girls. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry about your daughter. My deepest condolences. I don't know the situation. You don't have to talk about it, obviously, but it's not easy. She was an executive and she just had a fear of flying and no one knew. So she had a panic attack on a plane en route to a business assignment and went into the bathroom and they found her in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. Oh, I am so sorry. From a panic attack. Mm-hmm. And I guess it...
Yeah.
As a mother, I don't know how you get past that. I mean, my sister passed and I watched my mother suffer. I mean, she's also, a survivor from the Hungarian Revolution and whatnot. But so made of tough stuff, but I don't know how a parent ever gets through that. I don't know that you ever do. I know you have to move on. And when I mean move on, I mean live day to day. You still have to be there for your children and your family, but then you continue to be this person of service.
Yes.
And I think that's so beautiful. And, I know obviously about you and what, sort of is your moral compass. And I feel like, is that something that helps you on a daily basis, knowing that you help others thrive and succeed and get to next levels, whether it's personally, professionally, mentally? Mm-hmm. Would you say that helps you?
Yes, it does. It very much so. I wish, and I say this often, I wish I had a me when I was coming up. Yes. Someone that willfully gives of their knowledge and service. Because women, what I know, and their studies have shown, that women learn experientially, and that's from learning from others. So, yes, there is a sense of satisfaction, a sense of purpose. So all those things in giving that knowledge.
And that's amazing. And I feel, we're getting there, but just, you kind of touched on it, is that there are women that feel like they are maybe, like you said, either they're on top or that they're in competition with versus, hey, let's, there's enough seats at the table for all of us. Exactly. And that is so my motto. And I know it is yours as well. And I hope as these amazing women, future leaders, as well as our women that are what I like to call our front row sisters, that they will continue as we give back, that they will also, it'll be a ripple effect and they will give back as well. Because like you said, it is so important to their learning. Now, what would you say like say to a younger leader that's kind of future up and coming, what would be some of the best advice you would give? I know there's a wealth of it, but what would you say maybe one or two things would be to that person?
And it's something that I'm doing now and I continue to do is your purpose. Understand what is your purpose here in this universe. If you don't understand your purpose, you're going to be just going around in circles. Understand your purpose. Your purpose is, and what is your purpose, not what someone else feels is your purpose. And map that out. Take time to outline what is your purpose and what is your pathway to get there. So that's very important. And you just can't just be doing things to be doing things. Make sure that you do it and you do whatever you need to do. So it's significant. And you're going to hear these words from me. Make sure it's significant. And what is the impact? It's not just the dollar signs and the growth and the revenues. How is it going to be impactful? That is how you build a legacy. That is how you want to build your legacy, because if it's impactful, people will remember.
Right. And so I want to ask you this very important question, and I'll give you sort of a little bit of background about myself. And I can only sort of stem from myself and others what they've told me. Was your purpose always the same? Is going to be my question, because I know growing up, I loved, being an entrepreneur. My first business, I think I was 9. My dad says 10. So we'll say 10. I created a backyard carnival or whatever it was. And I saw people happy and engaged and, the community, excuse me, and the belonging. And of course I did, other things, I got into PR, worked with celebrities, musicians, and then the PI stuff. So it's not like my purpose was always serving others. Mm-hmm. And so whatever that looks like to people, do you believe that your purpose can change, or do you feel the conduit to your purpose could change?
I don't feel my purpose is going to change. And fortunately, I have on my team, our chief creative officer. She did what was called archetypes. And I am a nurturer. And I've always been a nurturer, and I'll continue to be a nurturer to the day I die. So I will always be a nurturer. And I feel joy in giving and helping people succeed their dreams and helping them go through those winding pathways. So my purpose has not changed. It might have been elevated to a different level from being an executive to being an entrepreneur. So the scale might have changed, but the purpose is the same and has been.
I love that. And so do you feel that you were always that nurturer? Because like you, I'm the same, but I feel like I was always that person. Do you feel like, the younger Betty, were you always that person?
Yes. Yes. And that's why I have satisfaction and peace. Yes. I love the giving. I mean, things that I do also, not just in the corporate world, but in the business world. I'm an usher. So I love that. And I've sat on many, many nonprofit boards. It's that nurturing aspect of caring for others. That's what gives me grace. That's what gives me peace.
I love that about you. And many things about you, but that's so humbling, I think, as well, that you are able to look, we can all say we have no time. Because really, we don't have time. You have 4 kids, a husband, a busy business. There's a million different reasons we can't do it. But I do the same. You always have to find time to give back to those that maybe, and again, I don't want to say less fortunate or are in different situations, whatever the case may be, and whatever, aligns with your purpose of giving back, I think is incredible. So I've got 2 more quick questions. I know we're nearing to an end. You and I could talk for hours and hours. I hope you'll come back and be another guest. Sure. But 2 more quick questions for you. You talk about legacy. And I feel that people don't really put a lot or enough value into that. I'll tell you just a very quick story. I found it very sad. I attended a funeral a few years back, and nobody was there. There was the immediate family, and that's it. And I have attended funerals that people, there was lineups and hordes of people. And it really, really got me thinking about I wonder what this person's legacy was. And so again, you sort of do some self-reflection. what is your legacy? What do you want your legacy to be? I mean, you've already created such amazing communities and given so much to others, but is there something you can, sort of share with us what you would like your legacy to be?
Sure. I'm a firm believer that the success of countries, I don't care what country you're in, is based off the foundation of a strong small business. Women start a lot of small businesses. And so we need that guidance. So I truly believe that the legacy should be that to find yourself a platform where you can use your voice and your voice will be heard. So that is what I do. That is why I do with Women Elevating Women with WOO when we have our sessions, and we do that with our conference that's coming in September. It's like, find your platform, use your voice. Because if you don't use your voice, then no one will hear the messaging that you were given, because we're all here for a purpose and for a reason. And you need to find that so you can establish and root your legacy.
I love that. And, just exactly what you're doing, giving people that platform, if you will, handing them the mic to amplify their message.
Yes.
That is just such an incredible gift. So from me and all the women and whose lives you touch, I thank you for that. We can go on and on about that. But like I said, that'll be the next podcast. So one of my closing questions I love to ask you, and I cannot wait to hear your answer, is obviously we're called I Am Unbreakable. When you hear the word unbreakable, what does that mean to you?
What does that mean to me? It's a saying that I share with the group all the time, being unbreakable. And I say, if as iron sharpens iron, women elevate women. And that's why you're unbreakable.
Wow. Wow, that is so powerful. And it is so true. I mean, when I think of being unbreakable, people are like, oh, you're tough, you're strong, you're courageous. I'm like, yeah, but not all the time. To me, unbreakable really is exactly what you talked about, and resilience, because being an entrepreneur and being a founder, you're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to zig when you thought you were going to zag. And I think, you talk about grace, giving yourself the grace or the forgiveness to, let's call it failure. I call them lessons. But let's talk about, just for, another few seconds here, when somebody does hit that point where they feel like I'm throwing in the towel, we've all been there. Betty, you've been there too, right? Yes. We've all kind of thought, I can't do this anymore. What was it that made you stay or made you unbreakable, would you think? Was it your own, can you share a little bit what might be?
And it's my spirituality, but also it's what we call our crew, the WOO crew. It's that support system. Sometimes and often you just need that encouragement, because what you've been through, somebody else has been through it before. And it's with them putting their arms around you, and they can say, this is a tough lesson. This is a tough lesson that you've learned, but I've been through this. And we have people share their experiences, their personal experiences, not something that they've read. So share those experiences, because we've all been there, and it's that encouragement that you get from your support system. That means the most. So you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to sit inside your shell and have the pity party. And it's okay to cry and be sad about what happened, but you got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and keep moving forward. And it's nice to know that you have a support system, be it people in your ecosystem for Unbreakable, or be it women in my WOO ecosystem. It's that support that goes so far.
You're spot on, because exactly what you said, I use the same words about the pity party, and it's okay. I always say, let's have the pity party. You want to bring a tiara. And when I did the one-on-one coaching, we have the pity party, whether it's for half an hour or 3 hours, but then put it in a box, put it up on the shelf. We'll visit it later. It'll still be there. I promise you. But let's, like you said, you say, pull on your bootstraps, but it is about picking yourself up and moving forward and moving, there's no other way through something hard except through it. You could go around it. You can jump over it. You can army crawl under it, but you got to get through it.
Yes.
And what you create is this safe space and this environment for women to share that. And, I'll share something with you. I don't know if you can see my tattoo somewhere here. I don't know, one of them. Oh, I think it's this one. The struggle is part of the story. And I put that here.
Oh, yes.
Let me tell you, that's our tagline. The struggle is part of the story. And I tell people, like, if you're not failing, if you're not struggling, you're doing something wrong. And they're like, and how much am I paying you? And my thing is, that's where lessons come from. That's where resilience comes from. Mm-hmm. That's where fearlessness comes from.
Right.
And as long as we can sort of reframe whatever you want to frame, like as I said, rejection is redirection. Whatever you want to reframe that negative thing that's getting to you, whether it's like we talked about the fear, the failure, rename it as opportunity.
Yes.
Do you say things like that as well? Like, is that something you believe in?
Yes,
Why is it so important?
Yeah, it is important because lessons learned are always important. Because if it's something that is not being learned, it is of no value. So it's important to have those lessons learned. Not that you want a whole lot of lessons and you got to run. Look, I've been here before, but you do get stronger from the lessons that are learned. And that is why I think it's important for programs like yours and what I do with Woo, that we share those. Because there's a saying that I grew up, people would say, you don't have a corner on that market. Somebody has been there before. And so you might be going through that path or going down that having that journey, but they survive and you'll survive too. So that's why it's important to have a strong ecosystem of sisterly love or whatever you want to call it, because I believe in the visionary men. We have visionary men as well. But you have that support system to say, okay, here's my shoulder. Now, okay, how are we going to work through this? What do we need to do next? So yes, absolutely.
And I love the fact that you say that you get women to share their own personal story versus something they read, because, things that, again, which drives me absolutely nuts. You look on social media and they've got the perfect house, the perfect car, the perfect this. It's all fake. You know what? We are in the trenches some days. It just is what it is. And that's why I want to share the tough stuff. I want to share the fact that there is no paved highway to success. And again, whatever that looks like for you. And that's exactly what you're doing. And I so celebrate and thank you for doing that, because as long as we talk about the realities, then I think that's where we're able to help, being authentic, being vulnerable, and then coming up with a plan. And I also love the fact that you mentioned about the fellas, because I don't know if you get this a lot or not. When I sort of first started all of this, I got to be honest, it was all men that would come up to me and say, are you one of those feminist women? And I always respond back, well, what do you mean by that? I'm like, if you're asking if I burn my bra, no, the girls need that. But what do you need to know? Right? And then after we cut through, the minutia of what they're really trying to say, and they're like, they just want to understand. And I love that. And so even when I created the magazine, which I'm so happy you're going to be a part of, and we're going to feature you, the marketing team was like, well, this is for women. And I'm like, okay, hold on. We're talking about closing the gender gap. We're talking about equality. Men are a part of that. And again, look, at the end of the day, your superpower comes from you. However, do you feel that when the men in our lives support us and have our backs, that we thrive so much more?
Yes. My husband is my biggest cheerleader.
Oh,
he is and my son. I mean, in fact, my son is part of our team. He's our lead graphic artist. So I've always been around supportive men. And that is why, at our conference, we started it last year and we're continuing this year. We honor 12 visionary men from around the globe.
I love that. And you know what? Kudos and hats off to you, because as I said, for me, and again, everybody's different, and there's spaces and many different platforms for many different people. But for me, and obviously for yourself, and I've always had that as well with my husband and my 4 boys, but lots of people don't. And that's why I thought it is important. I call them mentors, that the men in our lives, and they could be, a father, an uncle, a cousin, a team member, whoever it is, doesn't have to be family, that lifts and supports you. I think it's so incredibly important, because keep in mind, all of those men are either husbands, they have, a niece, an aunt, a grandma, whatever as well. And they champion them on as well. Betty, it has been such an incredible honor. Big love, big hugs to
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
All the time. And I hope to have you back soon. Have an amazing day.
Thank you.